I've been preaching for 40 years. I started preaching in 1982. Preached lots of messages over the last 40 years. This message I'm preaching this morning is one of my top 3 messages in the last 40 years. If I could only bring 3 messages for the rest of my life, this would be one of them. And this message is called The Power of Attitude. I want to talk about our attitudes and the importance of our attitudes. Here's the subtitle for the message: How Our Attitudes Determine Our Success and Forge Our Futures More Than Any Other Factor in Life. For the rest, if you're saved, that means you're going to heaven, but it doesn't mean your life on earth is going to be good. An unbeliever with a good attitude has more potential than a believer with a bad attitude. And even though you may be on your way to heaven, life on this earth will be determined more by your attitude than any other factor in life. David, in the worst times of his life, he had the best attitudes. In the best times of his life, he had the worst attitudes. So you never can say that your circumstances are determining your attitude. The Apostle Paul in Acts 16 was in Philippi. They had just beaten him with rods for preaching the gospel, threw him in jail. At midnight, he was singing praises to God, singing and praising God. Here's the deception. If my circumstances were different, I would have a better attitude. No, you wouldn't. Listen to me. If you can't have a good attitude now, you can never have a good attitude. If your attitude is dependent on circumstances and you don't have a good attitude, it won't be better. I can overcome anything or any person with a good attitude. That's the truth. Here's another truth about attitude. Happiness is a chosen attitude, not a state of being. What will it take to make me happy? Just deciding to be happy. Carol Burnett, now she's kind of old now. Some of you are too young to remember her or know who she is, but she's a comedian, very funny comedian, very successful. Both of her parents were alcoholics. She was raised by her grandmother. She never had a bed the entire time she grew up. She slept on a couch. And she studied for school with a bathroom light. And she grew up as a happy person and decided to make other people happy. Hugh Downs says this: a happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. A happy person is not a person in a certain set of circumstances, but rather a person with a certain set of attitudes. This is Dennis Waitley. This is a quote here. Now, this is my favorite quote outside the Bible right here. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. Read that one more time. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude. And Abraham Lincoln said, we are as happy as we make up our minds to be. So when I was in college, I worked for my dad. My dad had an appliance and electronics business. And so we did a lot of business with people in our city and around the area. And so one particular day, something happened that really struck me. We had a regular customer of ours, that he was a very wealthy guy. He bought something, I think he bought a TV. I didn't like going to his house because he was so mean. He was just a mean, dominating kind of a person, rude kind of a guy. So we took this TV out to his house. Had these sweet little kids. He yelled at them all the time, yelled at his wife. Just miserable kind of a guy. Had everything you could want in life. I took a TV out to his house one morning, and I left his house, and I just thought, I hate going out to this place because just, the way he is. And so that afternoon, we had a refrigerator delivery to one of the poorest parts of our city. And we drove up in front of this house, and it was just a little bitty wood-framed house, white wood-framed house. And I went to the door, and I knocked on the door, and this little old man about this big came to the door, and he opened the front door. He said, hey, are you the refrigerator guy? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, get in here then. And so when you deliver a refrigerator, the first thing you do is get the old one out. So we took the appliance dollies, through their tiny little living room. Wife was in the kitchen, just super sweet woman. And so we got the old refrigerator on the dollies. And I noticed when we came in, I saw a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses on the counter. So we put the refrigerator on the dollies, and as we were taking the old refrigerator out, they toasted it. And they poured champagne in their glasses, and they said, thank you, old refrigerator. You have been a wonderful refrigerator. You've been a wonderful part of our family. Goodbye, we love you. And we rolled the old refrigerator out, and I'm thinking, I never saw that before. So we go get the new refrigerator, and we're bringing it in, and we come into the living room, and they're dancing cheek to cheek in the middle of the living room, singing, we're getting a new refrigerator. We're getting a new So we put the new refrigerator in, they toasted it, and they said, new refrigerator, welcome to our family. We're so glad that you're here. And they toasted it. And we went and got in the truck, sitting in front of their house. And I was thinking about the guy that morning, that miserable rich guy that morning. And I'm thinking about these people. I'm thinking, these are the happiest people I've ever seen in my life. Sweetest people. Here's another truth about attitudes. God rewards good attitudes, and he disciplines bad attitudes. God disciplines bad attitude, and he rewards good attitudes. Now, if you're a parent, you need to reward good attitudes. You need to punish bad attitudes. If you only punish behavior, you're behind the curve. If your child has a bad attitude and you're not disciplining that attitude, you're behind the curve. You discipline some of our son, Brent, and I think he's in this service here, so I'm gonna be careful. But Brent, he was probably in third or fourth grade. He came home one day and he'd gotten in trouble at school. And they sent a note home with him, and they said, Brent got in trouble at school today. So he handed me the note, and I had to sign it, and I said, what did you do, Brent? He said, nothing. I said, Brent, you did something to get this note. What did you do? He said, nothing, Dad. I didn't do one thing. I said, why'd they give you the note? He said, I rolled my eyes at the teacher. And I said, then you deserve that note. You discipline attitudes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Good attitudes. It's not that just they're doing what you say, but they're doing it with a good attitude. Now, this is James 4:6. God resists the proud. That's an attitude. But he gives grace to the humble. That's an attitude. God resists. The word for resist here in the Greek language is the word antitasso. It means to set yourself in battle formation against. This isn't just a little bit of resistance. This is a war type of resistance.